Good morning and welcome to the National Newspaper Publishers Association's Let It Be Known. Lots and lots of news on this Wednesday, hump day, and middle of August already, August 14th. Wow, it's almost time for the kids to go back to school. Glorious time of the year. Very glorious time, isn't it? Um, and lots of news. First and foremost, an Ohio police officer accused of fatally shooting a pregnant black woman has been indicted on murder charges. It seems like they're finally cracking down, charging murder to these egregious police officers. We're going to talk about that this morning. And a new judge, a hostile star witness, and another mistrial request kicked off the jury's return Monday and Tuesday to the racketeering and gun conspiracy trial of Young Thug after nearly a 2-month hiatus. Eh, that trial is still going to be uh, happening. The longest trial in Georgia history. We're going to tell you a little bit more about that this morning. And there's further proof that mainstream media remains in Donald Trump's pockets, or at the least, they are puppets for him. At least three new major news outlets were leaked confidential material from inside the Donald Trump campaign, including its report vetting J.D. Vance as a vice presidential candidate. And so far, each of those outlets has refused to reveal any details about what they received. Instead, Politico, the New York Times, and the Washington Post have written about a potential hack of the campaign and described what they had in broad terms. Um, the cover up continues. We'll get into that a little bit this morning. And a new study found that doctors are more likely to use negative language in electronic health records for Black and Hispanic patients than for white patients, potentially leading to a bias and unequal treatment. Uh, we can't win, right? And how about this? Question for you guys. Your friend is having a wedding, your family member's having a wedding. Would you buy tickets to your friend or family member's wedding to help them pay for it? Especially when the wedding is costing like $200,000. We're gonna talk about that this morning and get your thoughts. Couple of things. First, though, Ilhan Omar has won her primary and is headed toward reelection in November. You remember two other squad members were ousted, but surprisingly, those Republican super PACs and those pro-Israel super PACs didn't go against or put their money in this race as they did Jamal Bowman's race, particularly. Um, but Ilhan Omar has survived her primary, and because she's in a true blue district, she will. Uh, it's safe to say she will be returning to Congress after the general election in November. But Ilhan Omar is victorious this morning in her um, primary, S- so a squad member does prevail. Um, there continues to be evidence that Donald Trump, Republicans, and the Heritage Foundation have plans to steal the 2024 election as Vice President Kamala Harris begins to run away with the contest. There's more carnage from Trump's attempts to steal the 2020 election. Well, former Colorado clerk Tina Peters, the first local election official to be charged with a security breach after the 2020 election, um, as unfounded conspiracy theories swirled. Well, I tell you what wasn't unfounded. She was found guilty by a jury on most of the charges this week. Peters, a one-time quote hero to election deniers, was accused of using someone else's security badge to give an expert affiliated with My Pillow chief executive Mike Lindell. Y'all remember Mike Lindell? Oh boy, gave him access to the Mesa County election system and deceived other officials about that person's identity. Lindell is a prominent promoter of false claims that voting machines were manipulated to steal the election from Trump. Wow. His online broadcasting site has been showing a live stream of Peters's trial and sending out daily email updates, sometimes asking for prayers for Peters and including statements from her. This is what Trump's Truth Social had been doing during that trial, sending out prayers for her. After all, she, tried to help him steal the 2020 election. Prosecutors said Peters was seeking fame and she became fixated on voting problems after becoming involved in the accuracy of the 2020 presidential election results. The breach Peters was charged um, of orchestrating heightened concerns over potential insider threats in which rogue election workers sympathetic to partisan lies could use their access and knowledge to launch an attack from within. Peters was convicted of 3 counts of attempting to influence a public servant, 1 count of conspiracy to commit criminal impersonation, first-degree official misconduct, violating or a violation of duty and failing to comply with the Secretary of State. She's going to be sentenced on October the 3rd. So she's going to jail. And is that something? Everybody's going to jail except except the one that's been convicted of 34 felonies, except the one that's been charged with what, 88 felonies, and go on and on and on, right? They all fall. They all fall. I saw a video, I think it was Roland Martin, a video of the Trump rally from 2020 in which black Trump supporter Herman Cain, remember Church's Chicken? That was his stuff. Um, where he went there, healthy old man, and he got COVID and died. And that was 4 years and 2 months ago. And 4 years, 2 months later, Donald Trump has yet to utter his name publicly. The man was entrenched in the Trump cult to the point where he's literally did what so many are saying they would die for Trump. Well, he did. And just like Diamond and Silk, he goes to the young lady's funeral. Oh, I didn't know her. What's her name? Platinum? I mean, come on. Cotton? Is her name Cotton? Cotton comes to Harlem? I mean, give me a break. Uh, An Ohio police officer accused of fatally shooting a pregnant black woman has been indicted on murder charges, according to uh, the latest court documents. Blendon Township police officer Connor Grubb allegedly shot Takia Young, the 21-year-old mother, a pregnant mother, last August after confronting her in a grocery store parking lot following allegations that she had shoplifted. After repeatedly being asked to get out of her vehicle by Grubb and another officer, um, she allegedly, yeah, slowly accelerated her car. Um, and of course, Grubb opened fire. There's been no evidence yet that she was actually shoplifting. I'm sure we'll get all of that stuff and more at the trial of this officer. But he was indicted by a grand jury on 4 counts of murder, 4 counts of felonious assault, and 2 counts of involuntary manslaughter. Body cam footage from the August 24th incident shows an officer approached the car with Young in the driver's seat, and he could be heard saying, "Out of the car," and she's asking for what? And they told her, "Well, she stole stuff. Do not leave." And then a second officer stands in front of the car, puts his hands on the hood, and eventually points his gun at her through the front windshield. And she's saying, I didn't steal anything. And she's afraid to get out, of course, as they start cursing at her. Um, and she even asked him, if you recall seeing that video, "You gonna shoot me?" And he says, "Get out of the car." And folks, it's easy to say, "Well, she should have just complied." But when we consistently see the type of behavior exhibited by these, rogue officers, it's hard to tell the good ones from the bad ones. It's hard to know if you are going to, breathe again. And, I mean, we're not certainly not advocating running or doing any actions that would be deemed criminal that would give them further license to shoot and kill. But this is again, Dr. Nicole mentioned yesterday the George Floyd Policing Act, the Justice and Policing Act. This is again why that needs attention because for the most part, black and brown people are afraid when they see those red and blue lights. They are afraid when being approached by law enforcement. And so the remedy right now is to hope that an individual gets justice. Obviously, it always turns out that the family winds up getting a few million bucks that can't bring their loved one back. I mean, you would rather have the millions of dollars plus your loved one, right? And like Mike V says, petty death isn't justification for the death penalty. And see, that is the thing. That is the thing. If once again, not just we've been talking about Project 2025, but even Donald Trump's own words, because didn't he say about those who shoplift? He said he would authorize police to open fire on them, to shoot them down in the street. And that's exactly what happened here. So this Officer Grubb, even though it's a state charge, he can expect if Trump wins the White House, he can expect some great assistance from the White House if Trump wins the White House to get him out of this situation. Yep, Mike V, that's what he says. When the looting starts, the shooting starts. And we've been saying it for a long time too. So that's exactly what he said. When the looting starts, the shooting starts. And the presumption of innocence, and look, uh, it began the presumption of innocence went away. That was one of the, I don't want to really use this term, but hopefully you understand what I mean. The casualties of the Me Too movement, the presumption of innocence. And I'm not saying that some man was innocent when a woman accused him. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying that it went away. That was one of the fallouts of the Me Too movement, that the presumption of innocence went away. I'll never ever forget Cyrus Vance standing on the steps of the Manhattan courthouse and saying just a mere allegation should be enough for conviction, and thinking, what world do you live in, Cy Vance? But Cy Vance being the former Manhattan district attorney. Um, and that was during the Weinstein situation, and, we know, um, New York, the New York Supreme Court has overturned Weinstein's, conviction, has ordered a new trial in New York anyway. I mean, he still has to face, uh, time in California where he was convicted as well, so but for Cy Vance to say that just a mere, that's why you gotta be careful. That's why I told people, I try to tell them, and sometimes you don't always things are always not conveyed in a way people can receive them in the way they should receive them. But I just remember the whole Cosby situation. And again, this is not saying that he was this or that. What was striking about that was all of the nonsense that was going on inside the courthouse. Forget about I'm not talking about the allegations and the women and this, but the nonsense that was going on there that they really it was really something that you didn't expect to see in a courthouse, particularly with someone as famous and as prominent, wealthy, because usually wealth helps you big time in the courtroom, which is in itself, I mean, that's something to be, argued about too. But folks did not listen. I went to one very prominent journalist during the Cosby case. I said, should be more attention paid to what's happening in there. Oh, Cosby deserves it. That wasn't the point. The point wasn't that he deserved it. The point was that once you start taking away the presumption of innocence, who does that hurt the most? People who look like us. People who look just like us. And so this young 21-year-old pregnant woman, they took away immediately the presumption of innocence on, like Mike V says, a petty theft charge and executed her. That's what a grand jury has determined. She was executed for alleged petty theft, which is I don't even think that rises to a felony. Depends on how much she allegedly took, but obviously uh, it wasn't all that much if she indeed uh, committed the crime unarmed, and now, as her mother says, there are two kids with no mama because you took away her presumption of innocence and you followed the Trump mantra and shot her down in the streets. So the officer's bond has not been. I'm not sure that he got bond. Power 96. I think that they're holding him um, without bail at the moment. I think there's another hearing that's taking place soon. I don't have the exact date, but another hearing, which undoubtedly will be a hearing that includes, at least includes, a bond or bail amount. Mike V says, start passing legislation that says anything less than $250, law enforcement cannot pursue. They have in some instances. So that's sort of like, I guess this is what I'm thinking of in some jurisdictions. For instance, these police car chases that are very famous in Southern California, um, they have the do not chase uh, mandates on the books that officers ignore repeatedly. So this $250 is a great proposal, um, but I don't listen. Will they follow it? Yeah, Cheryl Brown says the unborn child was 6 months old. She is 6 months old now, I guess. I don't know. Gotta be a year because it was a year ago. But but this officer has been charged with murder. And speaking of presumption of innocence, Young Thug. How does this go on, Austin Cooper? A new judge has seated after the jury sat for 2 months. They sent the jury home for the last 2 months. This case has it's restarted. But this case has mistrial written all over it. Oh, she was 6 months pregnant, is what Cheryl Brown was saying. This case has mistrial from the jump. It just has mistrial all over it. I'm not certain as to why this trial is now resuming. Um, I'm not a David. I'm gonna appeal to David Youngblood because I'm not a lawyer. But the previous judge's actions um, seems like it should have led to a mistrial. Um, Now then you bring another judge who immediately recuses herself, and now this judge, and you have the jury on ice for 2 months. The case is Georgia's longest running criminal trial. It began, folks, with jury selection back in January of 2023. This trial is going on 2 years, and it is not even close to being over, as prosecutors say that they still have 105 more witnesses that they're going to call and testify in this case. They've already had 75 folks testify. And so, and remember, after the prosecution finishes, whenever that might be, the defense puts on their case. And it is right now on a pace to conclude, if they don't have any more hiccups, next summer. This is a 3-year trial. And then, yes, you had Lil Woody. And, Angela Connolly says the trial is not over, but people close to Woody are still being killed. Hmm, interesting stuff. But this is a racketeering case, and I'm not sure why they haven't declared a mistrial here. I just don't. I know that the defense has on a couple of occasions moved for a mistrial and was denied. But this is utterly insane. Who said it? Was it Dr. King? The arc of justice is long, and but this is absurd. I always get a kick out of when rappers when I know that they don't get a kick out of being on trial, but when there's some sort of incident with them, especially if they're on trial, their real name is revealed if you didn't know it. But Young Thug, I mean, look, he's got a normal name, Jeffrey Lamar Williams. And here's the thing with him. Now the jury selection began in, as we said, January of 2023. He's been in jail though. They arrested him way back in May of 2022. So he sat in jail for over 2 years now while this trial's been going on. David Youngblood says he's as perplexed as I am. A motion for mistrial should be granted if the things they say have occurred did in fact happen. And apparently, the one thing we know happened, which is why the judge had to be removed. And he jailed Young Thug's attorney because he refused to. Um, Young Thug's attorney refused to disclose who dropped dime on the judge, who held a what turned out to be an illegal hearing in which someone admitted to the crimes that Young Thug is being charged with. And it's right then and there, instead of disclosing this to Young Thug's attorney, they moved on, the judge and the prosecutor, with the case until Young Thug's attorney was alerted to the situation. That's look, grounds enough. Now, to be honest, I never even heard of Young Thug until he was arrested. He's 32 years old, and um, so they say his YSL, Young Slime Life, is a gang, a street gang. It's not just a rap persona. And you remember, Fonnie Willis, the district attorney down in Fulton County, Georgia, made headlines then when she decided to use the lyrics, his own lyrics against him. And remember, we had folks like Jamal Bowman, Representative Jamal Bowman, and others try and craft legislation that would prevent prosecutors from using the lyrics of artists. There were 27 other co-defendants in the unusually high, which is unusually high for a case, and that prompted some of the initial delays. And of course, many of them cut some sort of plea deals. Power 96 says 32 years old. He's an old thug. But this is a case that I've just never seen anything like it. If you remember the O.J. Simpson case, preliminary hearings began like July of 1994. Opening arguments began in January of 1995, and the case went to the jury, and in 3 hours, it was over in October of 1995, and that was long. Daniela Pierre says Woody has been granted immunity, so now he recalls what happened. Oh boy. Well, further proof that mainstream media remains in Donald Trump's pockets, or at least they remain puppets for him. As we said at the outset, at least three news outlets received confidential material from inside Trump's campaign, including information on how they vetted JD Vance as the vice presidential candidate. And now each of them have been called out for not revealing any details about the information they received. In other words, called out for protecting Donald Trump. Those outlets are Politico, I should say, the New York Times, and the Washington Post. What they have done instead was feed, and has continued to do, feed their readers with stuff about the potential of hackers, outside hackers, foreign hackers going into Trump's campaign. But it's very peculiar that they would decline, all three of them decline to publish what potentially could be very embarrassing materials that were hacked. Especially peculiar because you remember Hillary Clinton's campaign, mainstream media savaged her, absolutely reported every bit of juicy gossip they can find from when her materials were hacked in 2016. Remember Russia? It was a Russian hacking that exposed the emails to and from Hillary's campaign manager, John Podesta. Remember WikiLeaks published a whole trove of embarrassing emails, and mainstream media, Politico, New York Times, Washington Post, and so many others covered that extensively. like hound dogs. In fact, Politico wrote about receiving emails starting from July 22nd from a person identified as, quote, Robert, that included a 271-page campaign document about JD Vance and a partial vetting report on Marco Rubio, little Marco. Yeah, coincidentally, might be Julian Assange is now free. Both Politico and the Washington Post said that two people independently confirmed that the documents were authentic, and yet they refused to publish them. They even contained embarrassing things such as JD Vance's remarks that where he disparaged Trump. The only thing that's not clear is who exactly provided the material to the Washington Post, the New York Times, and Politico. Of course, the Trump campaign said it had been hacked, and they claimed that Iranians were behind it. They provided absolutely no evidence for that claim, only that it came one day after a Microsoft report detailed an effort by an Iranian military intelligence unit to compromise the email account of a former senior advisor to Trump's campaign, or not necessarily to Trump's campaign. In fact, it said to a presidential campaign without specifying which campaign. It could have been the Biden campaign. Could have been uh, Vice President Harris's campaign. It could have been somebody else's campaign. But um, again, mainstream media finds yet another way of failing its readers, failing its viewers, failing the public. We have come a long way in losing what journalism was supposed to be about. There's no more Ed Bradleys. There's no more Randall Pinkstons. Naturally, Walter Cronkite's, Edward R. Murrow's. Power 96 says Trump hacked himself, sounding like Sylvester from the Looney Tunes. Um, but that's the standard is just the bar is so low. Um, Lauren Burke has come on a few times and she's talked about anybody can claim to be a journalist now, and in this sense, certainly so, certainly so, because there are no more standards if you go by mainstream. Again, it is why it's to beat the dead horse because we need that dead horse to stay alive. That doesn't make any sense, does it? But the importance. Bernard Shaw, yes, was a great journalist, but the importance of the black press of America is profoundly important. The importance of Let It Be Known. I say it with a smile. The award-winning Let It Be Known um, cannot be overstated. Cannot be overstated. We don't mind calling folks out. We don't mind reporting facts. We we have built. You know how that goes. Black and brown people, we got to do 10 times the job that other folks do in order to even uh, get the smallest amounts of credit. Heck, it's hard to get credit within your own circles. But Austin says the KKK and Putin have hacked Trump's mushy, half-baked brain. Austin coming from the top rope. But folks, listen. You're going to hear even more of these lies, misinformation, and you're gonna see more and more. You saw it in 2016. You got a good taste in 2016 of what mainstream media did to influence. They talk so much about the stolen election and or trying to steal elections in 2020, but the mainstream media is what is who stole the 2016 election. Let's be real. They stole it. Mainstream media did it. In 2020, Trump tried to do it, but in 2016, mainstream media succeeded. And you're gonna see more and more of this. And just imagine they're covering this up, openly covering it up to the point that even the Associated Press had to call them out. The Associated Press, who these folks open up a Washington Post or New York Times or even Politico. Guarantee you're gonna see stories in there from the Associated Press. And the Associated Press is calling them out now. Even they got a little sick to their stomachs. Doesn't happen here. Doesn't happen here. And which is why, again, whatever area you might be in, New York, Amsterdam News, Chicago, The Defender, Houston, Defender Network, 4 Times, Los Angeles Sentinel, New Pittsburgh Courier, Philly Tribune, Washington Informer, Afro, Baltimore Times, Jackson Advocate, Mississippi Link, West Side Gazette. Support them. Support them. And certainly support Let It Be Known. Don't let us don't let us get into obscurity like these other folks. Support us, folks. Um, a new study has found that doctors are more likely to use negative language in electronic health records for Black and Hispanic patients than for white patients, potentially leading to bias and unequal treatment. The study, called Examining Linguistic Differences in Electronic Health Records for Diverse Patients with Diabetes, analyzed the medical records of Black, white, and Hispanic patients seen by 281 doctors in a large metropolitan area to identify potential biases in language. The lead author, Eden King, noted that previous studies have linked provider biases to racial health disparities, and that this particular study, the goal was to detect such biases in health record language, which is what they found. The summaries from doctors for Black and Hispanic patients contain significantly more negative adjectives like unkind, negative, or stupid, and significantly more fear and disgust words such as intimidate, attack, cringe, and criticize. The notes for Hispanic or Latino patients included significantly fewer positive adjectives such as um, supportive, kind, great, and nice. They included fewer trust verbs such as affirm, advise, confide, cooperating. Fewer joy words such as admiration, elated, glad, and pleased. Understanding that providers' language may indicate bias points to an opportunity to interrupt, said Eden King, one of the co-authors. King said, if we can perfect algorithms to detect such bias, we can raise awareness in the moment of the patient provider conversation. That awareness may be enough to encourage more equitable healthcare. King and her fellow researchers hope their work will enable physicians and other researchers to identify and mitigate bias in medical interactions with the goal of reducing health disparities stemming from bias. Here's the thing. Yeah, Mike B says, if I can't trust my doctor, who can I trust then? Here's the thing. So again, Mike Bloomberg and Bloomberg, his philanthropic arm, gave $600 million to 4 HBCU medical colleges. That this study really helps to highlight why that's necessary. We need more black and brown doctors. It's just that to go into a doctor's office or a hospital and to see a doctor and they are writing things like stupid in your chart. Notice they never let you see your chart. I always look at my chart. They never let you see your chart. To write things so demeaning when you are sick, when you're not well, when you're undergoing a procedure, perhaps surgery. And folks want to look, we don't talk about it a lot. We talk about when necessary, but folks want to argue against reparations. Boy, oh boy, we need repaired in so many ways. Um, it is just, it's disgusting. So, I want your response to this. I want to hear what you have to say. Aunt Pam is watching, so I want to hear what she has to say. Dr. Nicole, Mike V, Cheryl Brown. I want to hear what y'all have to say. Certainly, I know I'm gonna hear from Power 96 on this. Michelle, I want to hear from you. I want to hear from all y'all. Daniela, everybody. Everybody chime in on this one. I was reading to Ray, his column in the Grio. And, he noted that a guy wrote on social media that he and his fiancée spent about $200,000 on their wedding. And Torre said that he immediately shouted at the screen. He says, "Yeah, y'all tripping. That's an insane amount to spend on a wedding." But that was not the thing that he was asking us about. He was cool with spending more than most Americans' yearly salary on his wedding. No, his question was this. He and his fiancée had told their guests that they were charging $450 per person to attend the wedding. We got we got a video to show on that. Let's look. We got the video. I mean, it's just insane.
Fiance, we are getting married, right? And to be a part of our wedding, you had to pay $450 for a ticket, and that's for each guest. So we invited friends and family to our wedding. Tell me why everybody that we invited has declined the invitation. I would too. We already have spent 100, maybe almost close to $200,000 on the wedding. I'm sorry, but if you can spend $100,000 to $200,000 on a wedding, you can fucking afford to pay for your guests to come party with you. Wedding. We have already pre-ordered the cake. We already put down a deposit for the venue. So, we've already got the wedding dress, everything. We pay for everything for the wedding. DJ, like photographer, everything for the wedding. And what I don't understand is that y'all spend 400 more money on stupid stuff, but you can't come out to support your family and your friends at the wedding. Like, tell me if I'm wrong. Tell it like is we you wrong? Are wrong. Like, let me know. Let me know. You were wrong because y'all pay for tickets. Beyonce tickets, $1,000 tickets. Y'all going to go meet Chris Brown for $1,000 something dollars. But when it comes to your friends and your family, you can't pay the ticket. If you can't, just say so. If you can't afford to have a wedding and have it at the price point of $450 per person, you should not be having a wedding. Now, is someone throwing?
I mean, Dr. Nicole had already chimed in. She said they bumped their heads. Um, he said nobody RSVP'd. And you surprised? Austin says, wedding coonery. Good morning on Pam, he says. He's not your aunt. Okay. Power 96 says justice of the peace and a discounted trip to Vegas. That is his wedding in a nutshell. Michelle Madison says it would definitely depend on the friend and amount requested. It's similar to these destination weddings. I've been to those. Mike B says, who is he? A potential vice presidential candidate? Even Tim Scott didn't spend that much. Um, so Michelle says it would depend on the friend and the amount requested. Okay. Joni King is just laughing. She just has no comment. She's just laughing. But um, you get an invitation to a wedding, and somebody said something about destination wedding or whatever. Okay, I can see splurging or spending to go to a destination wedding if it's a loved one. It's not gonna be one of them a friend of a friend type things. That's it's not gonna be one of them, uh, you know, second cousin things. Aunt Pam says, "Good morning, Austin." We're not gonna have this morning, Aunt Pam in Austin. We're not having this. It's not allowed this morning. Um, David says it's right that they should have no guests. I wouldn't go either, nor do I attend destination weddings. Yeah, I mean, destination weddings are difficult enough, right? Because the timing has to be right. See, they trolling me. But $200,000 and you want somebody else to foot the bill. And then he complains like uh they spend $1,000 for a Beyonce concert. First of all, I will not spend $1,000. Listen, for I don't care whose concert. And then these individuals who paid $1,000 to have their picture taken with Chris Brown, um, look, in my opinion, they they need to have their heads examined. But and there's no shade against Chris Brown. I don't blame Chris Brown one bit. If I felt like somebody was gonna pay $1,000 just to take a picture with me, you better believe I'm taking advantage of it. No shame in that at all, Chris Brown. So I'm not no shade to Chris Brown. It's those individuals who decided to pay 1,000. I don't care if you have it like that. $1,000 to take a picture with somebody? Are you kidding me? But nonetheless, that's what they chose to do with their money. Now, so because they decided to spend all that money for Beyonce or Chris Brown, doesn't mean they want to spend it for you. Are you gonna get up there and do all the single ladies? Are you are you gonna do are you gonna bring Jay-Z out for a duet? I don't think so. I don't think so. And with destination weddings, Dr. Nicole said, at least you get a vacation out of a destination wedding if you have the time and can afford to go. Exactly. 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 Um, Austin, Austin says the destination for this particular wedding was just 2 blocks away. Cheryl Brown says point blank, nobody told you to pay $200,000. And no, I'm not paying $450. They kept trying to get some of that money back that they spent, but it won't be off of mine. Yeah, because listen, let me just to keep it all the way 100 ghetto. You want to keep you want to keep the cost less than what you think you might get as far as cash gifts. Just a little, you know, a little secret there. Mike V says I would attend over Zoom for $20. Y'all are just going in. Um, uh-oh. David says only if it's your daughter, Stacy. Listen, my daughter's wedding was not 200,000. It felt like it at the time, though. I'm gonna tell you. Hey, listen. And then I got a couple more to go, and I can only imagine what they're gonna be. The good thing about no, let me say this. I will say this. My daughter's wedding was quite expensive, but it was worth every single cent. I didn't ask nobody to help. We did not ask for anybody to help. But let me say this about my other girls, if they were to ever get married, those girls, uh, they are very, very much frugal when it comes to spending money. So I don't think I really have to worry about them. Um, Joni King is suggesting a courthouse and a reception at the local community center. And Power 96, of course, is measuring how much crawfish he can buy with $450. So you know he's not going to your wedding. Okay, and Danielle Pierre makes a point. Is the ticket amount tax deductible or does a percentage of the $450 goes toward a charity of choice? If not, I'm not coming. That's a good point. Daniela Pierre, that is great. That'd be one thing, right? They say we are curing cancer. We are giving this to what's the commercial that makes people cry all the time? Um, Jude, St. Jude. When they have the kids, the little kids with cancer, and they lost all their hair and stuff like that, and that music in the background, and it's like it's moving you to cry and open your wallet. It is the greatest. It is the greatest ad. Uh, what do you call it when they do the like? I'm trying to think like Jerry's Fund thing. Remember, they used to call. You have to call and you pledge money. It's the greatest thing I've seen ever. The St. Jude's commercials to move people. What is Shriners? Michelle Madison says Shriners. What is that? But listen, he can say all he wants. And look, about Beyonce, the telethons, yes. Thanks, Cheryl. And Chris Brown. But again, tell me Beyonce. It still ain't gonna get me. If you tell me Beyonce's gonna be there and sing a song, it still ain't gonna get me to give you 450. Tell me Rihanna gonna be there and she's gonna be wearing what she wears to that thing in Barbados, what they call that stuff, like Mardi Gras, and then I'll pay the 450. Or tell me Jasmine Crockett gonna be there. Jasmine Crockett. Yeah, recommend it's hard to fathom that you can have a a lawmaker that's so hot. Did I say that out loud? In an interview with NBC, those two newlyweds that we saw, Nova and Remo Style, explain why they decided to charge their guests to attend their celebration as much as if they were attending a concert. The couple contended that weddings are expensive and thought that if people were willing to shell out hundreds to see their favorite pop stars, they could do the same as we saw him try to put it in that sort of perspective. But it turns out like his fiance was trying to talk him out of it apparently. She told NBC News, they were sitting with NBC News and she says, "Babe, people are not going to come." And so he was like, "Nah, nah." He says, they these are our loved ones." Well, aren't you the one showing a lack of love? 450. So ultimately what happened was the couple charged the guests $333 each, which paid for a complimentary seat on their double decker bus and a 12-hour tour of New York City. Are you kidding me? The subway, which is probably what? How much is the subway now? $3 to take you around the city? And they'll do that. Subway will do that in about an hour. I don't want to ride around in traffic for 12 hours in New York. So the prices of wedding, by the way, the average wedding last year in the US was $35,000, which was 5,000 more than the average from the year before. Power 96 says, how much does he charge for a regular house party? $150? Shriners Foundation? Oh, okay. Oh boy. Speaking of weddings, folks, Mayor Brandon Scott got married. And this is what, and Greer's feeding me a quote from Hannah and Brandon Scott. We wanted a wedding without all of the pomp and circumstance and many of the usual wedding traditions. What we prioritized the most was celebrating our love while being surrounded by the people we love the most. Now there was more to it. Our loved ones were in for a huge surprise. She said, "I guess it was sort of a surprise thing." But the point as Mayor Scott continues to show so much class. The point is this: we wanted a wedding, they said, without all the pomp and circumstances. They said we prioritized the most was celebrating our love while being surrounded by the people we love most. Have anybody ever, before we go, have you ever contemplated uh, or before your wedding discussed like or tried to figure out if your fiance was only excited because of the wedding itself and not because of the marriage? It's a thought. And so it sounds like this couple was not necessarily excited about marrying each other. They were excited about the wedding, the party. You can have a party anytime. 196 said he jumped the broom in the courthouse. That does not surprise me. Does not surprise me at all. But this $450, wow. And Greer wants me to make sure to remind you that 19 million uh, votes were purged. So she's saying check your voter registration. 19 million purged. The fix is in. They're trying to put the fix in. And don't forget next week, folks. Speaking of all of that voting stuff, yeah, I was wondering that too, Cheryl. By the way, do you still have to buy a gift if you're paying the $450? But yeah, she wants to remind you after 2020, after he lost in 2020, they went to work immediately on the 2024 election with 19 million voters being purged from the rolls. And so it says go to vote.org to double check your registration. But reminder that next week we will be in the second city, the Windy City, Chicago. All week next week we will be airing at 9 a.m. Eastern if you want to catch us live. 9 a.m. Eastern next week instead of the regular 7:30 a.m. Eastern time. So 9 a.m. Eastern. Catch us all next week, and we will likely have uh, pop-ups during the daytime as well. So we'll keep you informed on that as well. But the Democratic National Convention 2024, lots of folks are expected to be there and will be there in a very, very tight security United Center. We will be there to bring you all of the news and information you can use. And just a final note on Mayor Scott's wedding from Michelle Madison. She says it was a Baltimore themed wedding. They served chicken and collard greens for real. See, that's the type of wedding. That's my type of wedding. So anybody get married anytime soon and you want me to come, please put some collard greens, some potato salad on there. Y'all want some yams. And let's and make sure we got some good scotch. There's hey, a wedding can't be good if it don't have some good scotch. And if one of you are recovering alcoholics, just put it in the next room. I'll make sure to keep it from you. Let's have some good scotch, okay? And let's have a good Wednesday. And subscribe to the Let It Be Known's YouTube page, LIBK-News on YouTube. And we will see you again tomorrow.